Hi guys, I'm Bobsi, and in this video we are gonna set up a character with animations to run around in our game. Now, keep in mind, as we got deciphered in a previous video, I am by no means an artist in any way. So Poly Synthi Studios have this great free-to-use Poly starter pack that I'm just gonna utilize. You can of course use whichever you'd like, but I think it's fine to just start with some simple assets. That way you guys don't have to pay for anything either to get started with this. Let me just make sure. Yeah, just gonna import everything. Here we have the Polygon starter pack. I tend to like to just drag and drop everything into my plugins folder just to avoid any confusion. Now let me go on to my player model here where we already have this beautiful button and Y. So to be honest, I don't know why we would even switch out perfection, but you know, for this case, we might just do it anyway. So let me go to the Polygon starter assets here, prefabs, characters, and let's find the character, for this sake, just male. Like this. You can see his feet seems to be correctly aligned. It's a little bit short, but that's okay. No shame in being short. I didn't say that. Okay, so because we're using URP, we need to convert the materials. That's why everything is pink. How you do that is we just select the materials that we want to convert. Unless, of course, they do have a conversion asset, but they don't. Some have like an extract for URP or something like that. They don't in this case. All we have to do is just select them all, go to edit, rendering materials, and convert selected to built-in pipeline, onto the URP pipeline. Here we go. Now we can remove this, and there we have the body. Now, if you would like, you can also just set up the gizmos to match with this. So I believe he's 1.8 in height, and that would make the center offset 0.9. And we will want to do the same with the capsule collider. Now there we go. Now it fits to his height a bit better. Now we can actually just delete this original body. I don't need it at all. And let's see here. It's a while since I've been in the project, but yeah, okay. So we want to import the animations at this point. We of course want to be able to set up some animations. I don't want to have to make them myself. So we're going to use every developer's favorite website, which is mixamo.com. If you're not familiar with Mixamo, oh, it actually just directly went to something. You log in, which I'm just going to do really quickly, just skip over that. And then in here, you can see there's a bunch of animations, which in order to download them, we can, for example, find a walk or a jog for that sake, if that's what you want. So you can see we will just find a jog forward, for example. You can see here we want it to be in place. This is very important. We can say download, and then we download it for Unity FBX for Unity, and you'll get a file that you can use. Now I recall that I've already downloaded some that I can use, so I'll just go back and find them. Right, so I'm gonna just drag and drop these in here, which I already downloaded. I have the jog forward, the jog strafe left, and the jog backwards. That way we technically have all directions, even though I know it seems like we only have three. The strafe left can just be mirrored, and that way we have a strafe right, throwing tape on the ground. So the first thing you need to do is you need to select all your animations, go to rig, and select that the animation type is humanoid. Then we just press apply. And what we also need to do is we need to go into every individual one of them and go to the animation tab, and the loop time needs to be enabled. Otherwise the animation cannot loop, which it needs to be able to do. So we just do it like that, and that should just work fine. Now we need to make a new animation controller as well for the player. So animator controller, player controller. Right, and I'm gonna open this up, and of course I might actually also want a idle animation of sorts. So let me just find that. I haven't actually gotten that. I just drag and drop that over, find idle. This one looks fine. My browser's been having some huge issues lately. I'm just gonna download FBX. I don't know why the replay isn't working. I have a very powerful computer, I promise. So downloading, go to my downloads folder, and I'm just gonna drag and drop the idle in here as well. Do the same thing, rig, humanoid, apply, animation, loop time, apply. Now I can drag and drop the idle in here. It's the default. If you drag and dropped anything else in there first, I can also drag and drop these in here. You can just right click and say set layer as default state, and it'll just change which one it goes to. We want it to go to the idle immediately. But what we need to do now is from idle, we actually need to create a blend tree. So I'm going to create this new blend tree, and this is just going to be our, I guess, jogging tree, whatever you want to call it. And if we double click this, we go into the blend tree, and in here we want the, oh, sorry, I completely forgot. We just need to click on the blend tree, click add motion field. And we want to add 4 motion fields, which are going to be obviously jog forward, and we need to drag the motion in here, which is in here. So jog backwards in here. We have jog forwards in here. There we go. And I click it. Jog forward. And then there is the strafe left and strafe left. And then we can just click over here, which mirrors it. Now, over here with parameters, what we need to do is we need to have a new parameter, which will be a float. That will be our, let's say, velocity X, and we'll make a new float for a velocity Z as well. That's going to be the movement of our player. So it will constantly adjust to the movement of our player. It will be a 2-dimensional simple direction, and the two blends will be velocity X and velocity Z. Then we can just remove this blend. It just made it by default for us. And as you can see, this now means that this is going to be X and this is going to be the Z direction. So for example, if our velocity Z is 1, we want to be moving forward. If it is -1, we want to be moving backwards. If it is, this is going to be strafe left. So if it is -1 on the position X and +1 on the position Y, And there we go. And this should be set up correctly. Now you can actually test this, I think, if this would work somehow. You can actually see that if our velocity increases, if I increase it on this, just drag it, you can see it actually goes up and starts mainly just using the jog forward. And that also means that if we then put the velocity X all the way to the right, you can see this jog field right here, which is unfortunately called jog strafe left, but that's just what it's going to be. This is actually going to be our right direction. It'll go up. It'll have both jog forward and jog left active. And you can see it'll change if I go to the left and change if I go backwards. So it'll actually smoothly blend in between all of these and figure out how to play the animation automatically. This is super, super smart. So all we need to do now is just to correctly call the velocity X and the velocity Z. And of course, we also need to make a transition over here for whenever the velocity X is going to be greater than 0. Not going to have any exit time, and going to move it over again time whenever the velocity X is less than, and let's just say less than 0.1. Here it's going to be greater than 0.1. That's probably a smarter way of doing this. I do think all conditions need to be met though, so I can't just put more of them into one, I think. So I'm just going to make 2 more, and then this is going to be when the set is greater than 0.1 and it is velocity set is less than minus 0.1. I can't remember if I did this one, the less one here also needs to be. So the lesser ones need to be less than minus, and the positive ones need to be greater than positive. I hope that makes sense. And of course we need the exit time of them as well. I hope this makes sense. I know I'm not the best at explaining this stuff, but it is fairly simplistic. And then we needed to be able to transition back when all of these are true, basically. So when it is greater than velocity negative 0.1 and less than 0.1 and less than 0.1 and greater than negative 0. I think this should work. I might have something wrong here, but let's try it. See, it might just explode, but hopefully it works. Now I go on to the character where you can see there's already an animator. Now if I go into my animations folder here, I can take the player controller animator and add it into here. Now I can go into my player controller script as well, and let's make a reference for that animator. The animator has to stay on this character because that's what we were animating. So let me just go and make a serialized field and have that be for our private animator. And I'm just going to call that animator like that. And then down here in the update function, what we can do is, as long as we can move, I don't think it makes sense to update it otherwise. You can say the animator.setFloat. And actually we probably want to do this further down after it starts calculating on our character controller. So we could do it down here where we calculate our character controller. Set the float, we had the velocity X, and we want to set that to our character controller.velocity.x. And we want to make a new one and set that to the velocity set. And this will be the velocity set that we get there. Okay, let's just go and check if this even works. The animator, we can just drag in the character here, and I think that should do it. Let's just try and see here. So first of all, yeah, obviously the camera was all messed up. But as we can see, he's playing the idle animation. And yeah, we'll fix the camera in a bit. And you can see when he moves, he actually walks around. See here. So he walks sideways with this. Oh, right. That's because this is the local velocity direction. We want to change this relative to the direction of the player. Okay, so let's make a new vector 3. That's going to be our local velocity. Yeah, so we want to do the transform.inverse transform direction of the character controller velocity. And then we can do this here. .x and .z. So let me try once more just to check. So now it actually runs forward. When we run forward, it runs sideways, sideways, left, backwards. Yeah, so as you can see, the animations are generally rather smooth. And one thing that I completely forgot. So now that these animations work, there's a couple of things that we want to do. We want to go onto the player on here, and we want to first of all add the network animator. This will just automatically synchronize these values. Now, next thing that we want to do is we want to remove the apply root motion. We don't want the root motion on for this animation. You can probably find a different video to explain to you what that is even better than I can do it. And then of course we want to fix the issue where we are able to see the skinned mesh renderer here on the player. So we most likely want to loop through and change the layer. So the way that this is going to work, so let me just save this, go onto the main camera, and actually let me go and just create a new layer really quickly. Oh, we have the player self layer already. Right. Do we have that set? I can't remember what we did in earlier tutorials. Yeah, so we have the self layer, which just takes every child object. Right, okay. So we need to do this, but we need to loop much, much deeper. So this needs to be improved now, because we already added the layer stuff. But obviously, since we're using an actual character, we need to not just layer through only our child objects. We need to go as many layers deep as we technically can and change the layer on those. Either that, or we could just hard choose which ones to set, which might actually be a nicer way to go about it. So let's do that pretty quickly. So let me make a serialized private list of our, this will just be of game game objects. Yeah, and let's just call it player models. That's fine. And then what we do down here is instead we just loop through each of the game objects. I'm just going to call it object in the player models. And we just set the player. So it's technically the same idea, but we're only looping through all the models. But that way we can go onto our player now. And where we have this player models list, we can actually just drag and drop this in here. Drag and drop the character in here. And I think there was some hair on his head as well, if I'm not wrong. So that's probably up on the neck, head. Yeah, and we have eyes, eyebrows, hair, all this stuff also needs to go. So let's go in here. Oh, sorry, onto the player. Just drag and drop these models in here as well. And there we go. I think that should work now too. So now we don't see our own player. We do still see our own player. Oh, wait, no, hold on. Still confused. So why do we see our own player? Let me think. So here we have the player. He's on layer self. We shouldn't be rendering him, I believe, unless we set the camera up wrong, which it shouldn't be. Camera is set on to rendering player self. That's weird, I did that, so I must have forgotten that in an earlier tutorial. The coloring mask on the camera needs to remove the player self. Otherwise, there's no point in the player self, unless we use it for raycasting, of course. Now it works. Now we can't see anything but ourselves. So this works now. Yeah, I think we might just leave it here. So now we have the basic moving. I can show you that this just works in multiplayer as well. And then in the next one, we can get his hands to actually hold the gun. And as you can see here, the animations work perfectly fine. The network just as they should. As you can see, we got left, right, forward, backwards, and it just works very, very smoothly. I think this is beautiful. So easy to network animations. And yeah, in the next video, we're going to have them actually hold the weapons as well. And yeah, hopefully this was helpful to you. This is the first in a couple of animating stages to get the player set up. And then in some future videos, I'm also going to look into making a round-based zombie system so they can spawn and attack you. I think that could be a fun addition, and that's from one of the comments. So thank you very much. Other than that, I just hope that you have a wonderful day. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and see you in the next one.